Enggak.
Kekayaan alam yang terkandung di dalam bumi pertiwi bukan hanya sebagai simbol keindahan duniawi, namun juga sebagai sebuah potensi. Bersamaan dengan potensi sumber daya alam yang luar biasa, turut timbul beragam permasalahan proses pengelolaannya. Terlebih, industrialisasi dan perkembangan zaman menjadikan persoalan semakin kompleks. Untuk menindaklanjuti hal tersebut, dibutuhkan tindakan nyata yang diantaranya adalah mencetak sumber daya manusia yang handal dengan kualitas intelektual dan mumpuni di bidang pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan. IPB University mewujudkan aksi nyata melalui hadirnya ilmu pengelolaan sumber daya alam sebagai salah satu program studi di sekolah pascasarjana yang terkemuka di kawasan tropika dan sebagai trendsetter dalam pengembangan program studi lingkungan di Indonesia. PSL IPB menghadirkan program magister dan doktor yang merupakan wadah untuk mencetak SDM yang mampu mengembangkan ilmu dan teknologi serta seni di bidang pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan. Ada pula konsentrasi minat studi program magister meliputi diplomasi lingkungan, manajemen dan perubahan lingkungan, pencemaran dan bencana, dan sistem agromaritim berkelanjutan.
Capaian pembelajaran program magister ilmu pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan, yaitu mampu mengembangkan ipteks dan praktek profesional melalui riset hingga menghasilkan karya inovatif dan teruji. Mampu mengidentifikasi dan menjelaskan, mensintesis dan merumuskan konsep ipteks dalam manajemen pembangunan dan permasalahannya. Mampu mengaplikasikan serta mencari solusi dengan menggunakan pendekatan sistem secara holistik untuk pembangunan yang berkelanjutan. Dan mampu mengelola riset, inovasi, dan pengembangan ipteks pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan yang teruji dengan pendekatan multi dan atau interdisiplin yang bermanfaat bagi kemaslahatan masyarakat dan keilmuan serta mampu mendapatkan pengakuan nasional, regional, dan atau internasional.
Program studi tingkat doktoral PSL IPB menyelenggarakan dan menjadi pelopor dalam kegiatan penelitian dasar dan terapan dalam pengembangan ilmu dan teknologi, serta seni yang baru dan original di bidang pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan yang berkelanjutan. Program Dr. PSL IPB berkonsentrasi kepada minat studi yang diantaranya kebijakan dan sistem manajemen sumber daya alam dan lingkungan, pengelolaan dinamika ekosistem dan jasa lingkungan, dan pengelolaan dan mitigasi kerusakan lingkungan, kebencanaan dan perubahan lingkungan.
Selamat datang di program Doktor Ilmu Pengelolaan Sumber Daya Alam dan Lingkungan IPB University. Program ini berdiri pada tahun 1976 dan merupakan salah satu program doktor tertua di Indonesia dan sampai saat ini telah meluluskan lebih dari 600 doktor. Rata-rata setiap tahun kami menerima antara 20-30 orang mahasiswa program doktor, terdiri dari program reguler yang perkuliahannya hari Senin sampai Jumat dan program khusus yang perkuliahannya berlangsung Jumat malam dan Sabtu. Sehingga saat ini kami mengelola sekitar 150 mahasiswa aktif program doktor. Program doktor IPB University saat ini terakreditasi A dari Badan Akreditasi Nasional dan sedang dalam proses menuju akreditasi unggul dalam sistem akreditasi yang baru. Program doktor ini sifatnya multidisiplin sehingga dosennya berasal dari berbagai fakultas di IPB. Saat ini program ini diasuh oleh 36 dosen, 26 diantaranya atau 70% adalah guru besar. Program yang kami asuh mencakup program by course dengan mengambil sejumlah SKS mata kuliah yang dilanjutkan dengan penelitian disertasi dan program by research yang lebih menekankan pada penelitian. Kampus kami berada di Baranang Siang, Bogor, dan memanfaatkan resource sharing dengan berbagai laboratorium di IPB di Baranang Siang maupun di Dermaga. Kerjasama pendidikan dan penelitian kami bina, baik dengan berbagai lembaga pemerintahan maupun swasta di dalam negeri, maupun dengan universitas mitra di luar negeri, antara lain dengan Jepang, Australia, Prancis, dan lain-lain. Dengan semua ini, kami berharap dapat menghasilkan doktor ilmu pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan yang handal dan berintegritas.
Proses pembelajaran turut ditunjang dengan berbagai macam fasilitas yang lengkap, seperti ruang perpustakaan, ruang seminar, ruang administrasi, ruang audiovisual, serta koneksi internet yang cepat. PSL IPB secara aktif terus melebarkan sayap dengan melaksanakan kerjasama internasional pada bidang studi lingkungan bersama universitas-universitas kelas dunia. Keberhasilan pencapaian ini merupakan bentuk peran aktif dari SDM PSL IPB yang senantiasa terus berkarya, berinovasi, dan berdedikasi. Namun, sejatinya salah satu misinya yaitu mencetak para lulusan PSL IPB yang mampu mengembangkan pengetahuan IPTEX di bidang pengeilmuannya dan melaksanakan praktik profesional melalui riset hingga menghasilkan karya inovatif dan teruji. Bersama PSL IPB, mari kita wujudkan generasi dengan sumber daya manusia yang berkualitas, mumpuni, berdedikasi, profesional, dan berdaya dalam berkontribusi nyata di bidang pengelolaan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan. PSL IPB, Inclusivity, Resiliency, and Sustainability.
Good afternoon from Indonesia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second international seminar on natural resources and environmental management 2021, or ISeNREM 2021, with the theme Towards New Era of Natural Resources and Environmental Management. We are now continuing our meeting to the next agenda, that is to hear the speeches which will be delivered by Professor Zeljko from University of Zagreb, Croatia, Professor Rizaldi Boer from IPB University, and Professor Tasuku Kato from Tokyo University of Agriculture Technology, Japan. This plenary session will be moderated by Professor Damayanti Bukhari from IPB University. Before we start, please allow me to read Professor Damayanti Bukhari short CV. Professor Damayanti Bukhari is a professor at the Department of Plant Protection, Faculty of Agriculture, IPB University, and also hold the position as the chair of the Center for Transdisciplinary and Sustainability Sciences, IPB University. She received her master from the Entomology Department, University of Illinois at Urbana, USA, and her doctorate in ecology, evolution, and behavior biology department, Indiana University, Bloomington, USA. An insect ecologist by training, she then began working on the interface of agriculture conservation issue since early 2000 through her work on insect biodiversity and stability of rainforest margin. Her passion in ecology has opened a wider array of research areas in landscape ecology and land use change, that cover also the aspect of human dimension, like how biodiversity affect local knowledge and how human affect change in the landscape. In the past 15 years, her work has moved to the landscape approach research, where the focus of biodiversity and policy are interlinked. Her interests currently include science policy work, like how science and policy should be intertwined to produce evidence-based policy and that are greatly needed. To Professor Damayanti Bukhari, the time is yours.
Thank you, Fifi. Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, Professor Zeljko. Hopefully I didn't pronounce wrong. I'm sorry if I pronounce it not correctly. And also good afternoon, Pak Rizaldi, Professor Rizaldi, and Professor Tasuku Kato. Welcome to the plenary session, and it's my pleasure to host or to moderate the session. So there will be 1.5 hours of presentation and discussion, and I was told by the committee that there will be a 30-minute presentation from each of you. And it seems that the schedule is quite tight. So the question answer session, I think I would ask the audience, if there are questions, please write in the chat so that the speaker can also read and can answer by writing. So if there is not enough time to read all of this, the presenter can actually write their answer in the chat box. There's also a couple of things that I need to share. That is, please, for all the audience, we expect you to mute your microphone. And as I mentioned earlier, we can use the chat box for the question session. Okay, so the first speaker will be Professor Zeljko, and then I would like to read his CV. So allow me to read a quick CV of Professor Zeljko. Professor Bacic is from the University of Zagreb, Croatia, and is a professor of satellite geodesy at the University of Zagreb Faculty of Geodesy. He serves as Croatian representative in EU Copernicus Committee, is a member of the Ministry of Science and Education Reference Group for the Space, and leads Copernicus Office Croatia, member of Copernicus Academy and Copernicus Relay Work. Presently, he is project coordinator of Erasmus Plus CBHE, that's SDI project, which deals with introduction of SDI in the university study course in Western Balkan region. Professor Bacic has previously served as Director General of State Geodetic Administration of the Republic of Croatia from 1999 to 2012, being member of a number of governmental bodies, like the head of the Croatian National Spatial Data Infrastructure Board from 2008 to 2012, and also a member of the Management Board and President of Eurogeographics which is the European Association representing national mapping, cadastre, and land registry authorities. He has published over 100 papers in refereed journals, conference proceedings, and professional periodicals. So let us all welcome Professor Zeljko Bacic. And you have 30 minutes, so we're running a bit late, but that's okay. You still have 30 minutes to present. Please, Professor Bacic, the time is yours.
Thank you, Professor Bukhori. Thank you for this invitation. I will share my screen now. Just a second, please. I hope you can see my screen and my presentation. I'm very pleased that I'm able to speak in front of this audience and participate in this seminar, because we are recently started a cooperation in frame of one of the Erasmus projects, and which is dealing with disaster risk reduction and management. And this is, of course, connected with sustainable natural resources and environmental management. So in next 25 minutes, I will I will deliver my presentation, which will, of course, be shared later by the organizers. So just a few facts about from where I'm coming. So our university is established in 1669. It consists, our structure is such that we have 38 faculties, and we are the biggest university in Croatia with some 75,000 students. The Faculty of Geodesy is not so old, so it was established as a self-standing faculty in 1962, and we have all levels of study programs in geodesy and geoinformatics with some 550 students and some 70 teachers and scientists out of the 100 staff members on our faculty. And when we speak about natural resources and environment today and taking a look into the future, we can, so giving us some introductory picture, we can say that in last 2 centuries, we have intensively exploited the Earth's natural resources. And this has, in combination with other factors like growth of population and growth of standard, created a situation that we have we came to the edge, considering the usage of natural resources and caring for our environment. So I think everybody would agree that today we are aware that we have to manage natural resources and our environment in a different way. So with much more care to ensure sustainability of our habitat and existence of our life on our planet. So there we have quite a new challenges when we compare it with something what was happening in past 200 years. In this context, we can say that the sustainable management became a paradigm of 21st century. So this is a key topic because we all are aware of climate changes. We are aware of extremes in weather and many other appearances which are influencing very much our lives. So in this context, each country, association of countries, or all countries involved or included or members of United Nations are trying to develop models of sustainable management. And so to say, if we simplify the goals of sustainable management, these are so basically to slow down climate changes. I put in brackets stop, because it's a question, or I doubt that we can stop climate changes anymore. To protect environment, to use national resources in a rational manner, and to ensure prosperity to whole humankind. And when we just look those four global intentions or goals, we can see that we have a certain kind of conflict, because ensuring prosperity to whole humankind till now was, so to say, colliding with protection of environment and the rational use of natural sources. So in this sense, already in 2015, United Nations adopted Agenda for Sustainable Development, which is a more complex document with 17 sustainable development goals, which should be achieved till 2030. And which was idea of this document or agenda was basically to mobilize the countries, the nations, for action which will, so to say, challenge the major problems, global problems like poverty, climate change, lack of education, inequality, problems in economic growth, etc. So based on this document and recognizing the situation in which our world is, in 2020, the European Union adopted a European Green Deal, which I would dare to say is more focused and ambitious document, focusing up to 2050, and so to say, trying to bring the peace between the climate change and environmental degradation with further economic growth. So the goals of European Green Deal are should ensure that greenhouse gases emission in Europe should be put to zero by 2050, that economic growth should be decoupled from resource use, and that economic growth will continue, so no person and place should be left behind. So, and such strategic documents or thinkings are present globally everywhere, but we are aware that there are many challenges to this approach. So the goals itself are presently conflicted because we are still not having technologies and our organization is not such that we can ensure prosperity at the same time implement fully the sustainable natural resources and environment management. So this is what we are all aware, a long-lasting process. It's a complex process, but at the same time, it's an urgent process because the changes of the climate and affecting our environment and affecting also our natural resources are happening quite fast and creating situation in which our natural resources might get lost or damaged. So even bringing a lot of effort in creating sustainable development approaches, there are many influences which cannot be controlled. So one are disasters, either natural or human-caused disasters. There are also, of course, military conflicts. There are some health crises, like presently the COVID-19 global pandemic. So these are some influences which we cannot, so to say, put in our equation of sustainable development, and therefore they can heavily affect our efforts towards balanced life on Earth. So when we speak about natural and human disasters, we know that there are some direct consequences which are affecting also natural resources and environment. So these are immediate damages caused by earthquakes, volcano eruptions, tsunamis, floods, fires, etc. There are also huge rescue costs. There is a cessation of economic activity, so economy is not working or working in a reduced manner for shorter or longer period of time. And then at the end, there are reconstruction costs. But at the same time, what is, so to say, not less important is that the reforms which we want to conduct to achieve sustainability goals are slowed down or stopped because simply countries, regions don't have enough capacity to handle both disaster and sustainable development. So these are the situations which we are facing in case of disasters. So let me give you a few examples. When we speak about the human-caused disasters, today is exactly 1 day from a Beirut explosion last year. It's a human-caused disaster. It was, so I would say, if I say it very politely, then I would say it was caused by negligence, and the devastation was huge. So beside the human losses, the infrastructure in the Beirut, which was once called the Paris of the Middle East, was huge, and just in the property, the damage was estimated on $15 billion. But the situation in Beirut and Lebanon was such that the structures of the state and of the town were already in the bad shape, and this everything is resulted in a very bad situation with a very slow reconstruction, and ultimately created a situation of lack of perspective for the citizens, so weakening the society structures. But just to be aware, the disasters are not affecting only countries which don't have resources or which are in problems. Last month, we witnessed heavy floods in Central Europe, the heaviest for some 200 years. caused by climate extremes, and also several hundred people died in Germany, Austria, Belgium, and the Netherlands, showing us that no country is protected. So showing us that irrelevant to the level of development of some country like Germany, those pictures are from Germany, cannot cope in a moment with climate changes and disasters caused by them. So even best system, and we all know that the Germany is an extremely well-organized country, have their limits. They are projected to some level of, for in this case, water, so rains and volume of the waters. And when the situation grows above those limits, then we see such devastating pictures. And also the third example are the earthquakes which hit Croatia in 2020. So first one was on March 22nd last year, which was basically in our capital, just 7 kilometers from the town center, which is showed on upper picture. And then at the end of the year, the nearby region of Petrinja, some 50 kilometers from Zagreb, was hit by 2 strong earthquakes on 28 and 29 December, where, for example, the lower picture, bottom picture, is showing exactly the moment when the second stronger earthquake on 29th hit Petrinja, and this was the reporter just reporting live when the earthquake happened. So direct damages are immense. You can see that in Zagreb it's estimated on $12 billion US. Some 30,000 buildings were damaged, and in Petrinja region it's less in money. But double the buildings have been damaged, causing, of course, a lot of humanitarian situations, so a humanitarian crisis in this area. So when we speak about disasters, irrelevant natural cost or human cost, we have to look, or we want to look in the role of geospatial specialists. So when I say geospatial specialists or professionals, I'm not addressing any specific profession, but rather all the professions which are very near to the usage and implementation and developing applications based on geodata or georeference data. So using the technologies which I will speak in few slides about them. So the role of professionals is to I see it 2 roles. First one is to provide information about the event and offering fast services, applications to rescue services and citizens. And the second one is providing a long-lasting support which will also be used for management of natural resources and environment. So our role is quite important and quite and very relevant for the decision makers and for the services and governmental agencies and government in general for the activities which happened after some disaster. So when we speak about the catastrophic earthquakes, then we know that they cause damage, they cause human loss. They are also resulting in fear and sometimes in panic at the very beginning. For some period of time, we are facing a humanitarian crisis. And also one of the results of such event is also that there is a lack of goods or problems in transportation of the goods to the affected areas. So such events require fast reaction from civil protection structures like rescue teams, city and state services, electricities, water supply, etc., transportation, police in the sense of the security, communication services, military, of course, very often or almost regularly involved, and professionals. I'm emphasizing a fast response. Why? Because we know that a reaction in the first few days or weeks, dependent of the dimension of the catastrophe, is extremely important. So when we speak about the catastrophic earthquakes, regardless to the level of civil protection organization of civil protection services and also of available resources, the rescue and recovery activities are always, so to say, overburdened, and there is not enough capacity to solve all the situations and cases. So support is usually, it's even wrong word, it's regularly needed from everybody who can offer it. And the geospatialists are really called to provide the offer. So when the first earthquake struck Zagreb on March 22nd, we were, of course, in shock. We had the last major earthquake 140 years ago, so we forgot what earthquake is, so to say. And there was, so to say, there was a quick reaction. Luckily, the earthquake was very strong, but didn't cause human losses. Just one person died, but there was a lot of destruction on houses, especially in the old center of town. So we recognized very soon that there is a great need for spatial interpretation or interpretation of what has happened based on the spatial information. And when earthquake in Petrinja happened, we were, so to say, we were, of course, surprised, but the reaction was much faster and was much more comprehensive. So the surveyors, our faculty, companies, also IT companies, so we reacted basically the same moment after the earthquake happened, using modern satellite and GI technologies, and delivered information on the aftermath of earthquake. So when we speak about the information, we should also define what are the urgent informations which are required or asked by rescue services and citizens. So first, of course, is what and where has happened, why it has happened, what are the consequences of the event. So what are the human, material, and geo-related consequences? Of course, the next level is who is in charge. So who will, so to say, lead the rescue and recovery? people who are affected, they are asking, where can I get help? And people who want to help, where and how can I help? So to whom I can deliver help. And if we look on the list of these questions, basically in a moment in Europe, we have only answer, so to say, systematic answer or prepared services only for the first question. So, for example, there is a European Mediterranean Seismological Center who is able really in minutes to deliver information where an earthquake has happened, what was his strength, and some additional information provided by the seismological network in the Europe. We also know we are preparing the civil protection structures. So basically, we also know who is in charge for the rescue and recovery after the event. But all the other questions are open. There are no, so to say, permanent or prepared services for this. So in this sense, after the Petrinja project, so the second one was on 29th of December. The next day, our faculty, together with the Croatian OpenStreetMap community, has established a platform which offered so to say, a tool to the citizens to share their needs, asking for help, for support, and also to share their capacities, willingness to provide support. So you can see on this picture right down the screen of this service, where the red dots are showing the affected area, and the green and the people looking for support, the housing, the materials, the food, the fuel, whatever. And the green dots, people offering help, offering support to affected people. This platform is basically still open, so you can see it on this link. It is, as you know, first it was implemented in when the Haiti earthquake happened some time ago, and now it's, so to say, a very powerful tool for people to communicate and to exchange information about need and offer. More complex, a few days after, at the beginning of the 2021, in January 2021, a problem, of course, not a problem, the result of the earthquake was also that houses were damaged and many collapsed, and roofs were, and the indicator of the collapsing of the houses was were basically collapsed roofs. So aerial images have been taken by drones. This is a picture of the town of Petrinja, and you can see that yellow and red dots are basically showing houses which have been which collapsed completely or were damaged, so roof had visible damages. And you can see that most of the buildings in the town of Petrinja were affected. So the faculty developed a platform which was named Oton, and basically this was used for evidence, for registering collapsed building and as a preparation for more detailed evaluation of all the buildings which have been registered as collapsed in the affected area. So this is, for example, those two examples are showing what can be done very fast with GIS and GI technology, and in combination with other sensors which can collect the data in field. But there are also other questions. So, okay, we know that earthquake...
Professor Becik, I'm sorry, you have 3 minutes left.
Yes, okay. So that there are also surface displacement and earthquake dynamics. So we can detect this. We can detect this with using a radar altimetry, so satellite altimetry. We can also use GNSS technology. The middle picture is showing that there was a shift of 5.5 centimeters in Petrinja earthquake on the course station, which was 17 kilometers away from the epicenter. And the right picture is showing a dynamic of the course station in Zagreb, which is on a building of our faculty, during the earthquake alone. So showing that the building and surface were shaking some 15 centimeters during the earthquake. And for example, from our point of view, the necessity to check the whole area, so to make a GNSS resurvey, detecting the surface displacement, what is also relevant for all, for rescues and for further work. So the managing of disaster parallel to natural resources is a complex task. In reality, we don't have, no country has capacities to process both activities in parallel, so there are compromises necessary. But the updated, so that the geospatial information collected after the earthquakes can be used very successfully also for management of natural resources and environment in our efforts to come back to the normal condition. And we are facing number of problems. So usually reconstruction is slower than anticipated, requires a lot of administration, and then many unexpected problems appear. So for example, in Petrinja earthquake, there was a lack of temporary housing facilities. Some 3,000 containers were shared in area to house the peoples. Then in Zagreb, the problem became where to dump waste from the reconstruction of the houses. And there is a lack of professionals. And in this context, when we address disasters in scope of natural resources and environmental management, then we should address also education. Because only educated professionals which are aware what and how can be done in such cases can support rescue and recovery activities. So especially the geospatialists should be well educated in disaster management and usage of Earth observation and GI technologies. And I'm pleased to say that we are in a moment working on a project together with IPB and also Siak Kuala University from Indonesia, and together with Sri Lanka and Maldives universities on the project named University Network for Disaster Risk Reduction and Management in Indian Ocean Rim, together with our partners from Belgium and Cyprus. But there are also many other projects like those which I listed here, in which we are participating, which are dealing with technologies like Earth observation, excellence in geoinformatics, and, for example, Copernicus program of European Union. And with this, I will cut a little bit, not speak about the projects. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm open for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Zeljko. This is very, very interesting, and it's good to know that you have such strong partnerships with all these universities. There is one question in the chat box, but I would like to ask you to answer that by writing because we have run out of time. I hope that's okay. So we can go to the next speaker. So thank you so much. So ladies and gentlemen, let us go to the second speaker. I will read his short biography for all of us. So the second speaker is Professor Rizaldi Boer from IPB University, and he is a professor and currently executive director of the Center for Climate Risk and Opportunity Management in Southeast Asia and Pacific, or ISeNREM. He received his doctoral degree from the University of Sydney, Australia in 1994, and has been working on climate change mitigation and adaptation, particularly on agriculture, forest, and other land uses since 1998. He is very active in conducting several studies related to policy, low carbon, and climate resilience development. And he is definitely involved in many international scientific teams, national research missions, and several scientific projects of the United Nations and high-level global players, especially like RDD, NFCCC, SDSN, etc., etc. It's just too many to be read here. He had been appointed as chairperson of the RAV, Region Agriculture Meteorology Working Group, from 2002 to 2009 for the World Meteorological Organization. And he is also a member of the task force of the Bureau for the IPCC Greenhouse Gas Inventory from 2008 to 2015. And he now serves as chairman of the expert board of the Indonesian Agriculture Meteorology Society, as well as member of the advisory board for the Asian Greenhouse Gas Inventory Working Group and the Asian Low Carbon Research Network. Low CarNet. Wow, that's a lot. So without further ado, please welcome Professor Rizaldi Boer. The time is yours, 30 minutes, and I will remind you 5 minutes before ending. Please.
Okay, thank you, Professor Dami. Good afternoon, everyone. So please allow me to share the screen. So I'm going to give a brief talk on the managing of land and forest resources for stabilizing global climate, as we know that forests play a significant role in regulating our climate. And we know that the big loss of forests will also change our regional climate because it will alter the reflection of Earth's surface, increase local warming or cooling, and finally change our pressure distribution. So of course, we'll change also the wind direction and so on. So actually, the presence of forests are very important in regulating the climate. If we look at how it's connected between deforestation and climate variability, we know that actually tropical deforestation happening in particular areas actually will have a big impact in the near location to that deforested region. However, the impact might be propagated by teleconnection along with the equatorial region into multi-latitudes and even high latitude, and though not as strong as the lower latitude. So that's why it is very important why we need to protect our forests. And also we know that the international community have a very serious attention on the conservation of the tropical forests. Based on the modeling analysis, climate modeling that we did, actually the deforestation for tropical region will significantly affect precipitation at mid and high latitude through the hydrometeorological teleconnection. And so without significant change in our protection effort and the loss of forest in these three regions, especially in Asia, Africa, and Amazon, which actually the central of the tropical forested countries. So by 2050, it might lose about 44% of the tropical forest. It will have huge impact to the regional climate and global climate. This is just one of the illustration and the analysis that has been conducted helping in how actually the forest plays significant role in regulating the climate. Just to show you what actually the impact of a big loss of forest in the period of 1972 to 2010 to the climate, Kalimantan climate. So these figures show you in the left hand side the deforestation that occurred in the period of 1973 to 2010, which is in this period there is a loss of forest about 20%. It's normal before it's 75.7% before 1970. So within almost 20 years, it's lost by about more than 20%. So it's only just half of Kalimantan now covered by the forest. And then we look at the climate condition after 1970 and compared to before 1970, so we can see there is a significant increase in the temperature. And we also can see the extreme temperature is become more frequent. So you can see the anomaly of the temperature of the trend line. Similarly, so the rainfall, we can also see there is also consistently decreasing in rainfall, but with increasing the variability. So this show you how actually the forests play an important role in regulating our regional climate. And this just to show some of the how actually the forest can buffer the extreme event. So in the left-hand side, just to show it is under the good water set. So so the observation based on the satellite data is observed in the good water set compared to a heavily degraded water set. So in the good water set, we can see under the dry season, either normal or El Nino years. El Nino is the extreme year, as we know, which is always associated with the drought even in Indonesia. So there is no much difference between the normal and El Nino years. So you can see also the extreme temperature is almost the same with the normal year. So it means that actually the presence of the forest can really buffer the extreme condition. And vice versa, and you look at on the right hand side, actually in the heavily degraded water set, you can see under the dry season, under the El Nino years, so the temperature increase quite significant, and more days with have very high temperature. And of course, we know that it is very well recognized by international. Actually, the big fire happened and occurred during that period, especially during the El Nino years. So the big fire in Indonesia is always associated with the El Nino years. So that's why it is very important how we can also restore our forests, including also the peatland, which is also quite prone to the fire event. But we know that the forest, the conversion of forests in unsustainable way will also lead to high emission. So you are very familiar with this kind of figures. That actually you can see actually the main contribution to the global greenhouse gas, of course, is come from energy. But however, deforestation also contribute, which is about 18 to 20% of the global greenhouse gas emission, which is mainly come from tropical forested countries. So the FAO is actually estimated that by 2030, if there is no mitigation policies, and probably the contribution will increase up to 30%. So it is quite huge. It is almost with the same with the increase of emission from transportation. And then if we compare among Asean countries, then Indonesia is the largest contributor to the greenhouse gas emission. And the largest source of emissions come from the land use and the forestry sector, and followed by energy. So you can see here, Indonesia are in the high position here in terms of the energy emission. Is also high, and also the forestry emissions. You can see that at present, the emission from the land and use and forest sector is higher compared to the energy sector. So it is very important to stabilize the climate. So we need to manage our forests in sustainable ways, and also we need to deep decarbonize the emission from the sector in order to stabilize the global climate. But not only that, of course, because the presence of forests also have a different value on biodiversity and supporting many livelihood of the people surrounding the forest, and ensuring the providing the environmental services and so on. So what are the global scenario in order to stabilize the global climate? So it is mentioned in the Paris target. For the land sector, so it is expected actually overall, including energy and forestry sector, we need to net zero emission or net NZE by 2050 or shortly after 2050. So it's expected not beyond the 2060 or 2070. And then in the context of forest, so it is also expected actually by 2030, we will reach the net deforestation. So it means that the rate of deforestation should be compensated with increasing of forest covers to the reforestation or afforestation activities. And then the use of unproductive land for the rehabilitation also should reach by 191 million hectares. It is a bond target. Yeah. As well as the protected areas for the biodiversity should maintain at a minimum of 50% of the land area. So now at the global range from 16% to 82% in Indonesia in the medium term development land. It is mentioned that we need to protect at least the area for biodiversity by 67%. And so further, actually, the global target actually for the land use sector, so we need to have -6 already, not later than 2050, with providing the international cooperation and support. Of course, achieving this goal requires joint effort and educate international support through cooperation with countries with large sinking potential. So the global situation that need to reach Paris target in land and forestry actually contact land for the forestry sector. One include the implementation of standards related to the international red trade rule for agricultural communities that are carbon intensive, so which is high emission. So it means that we need also to look at and evaluate what are the carbon footprints of all our agricultural commodities. Of course, we know that we are facing a very difficult situation when our palm oil is being blamed because of the indirect land use, which actually the establishment of palm oil causing high deforestation. Of course, with the presence of the international standard, I thought push everyone to really carefully consider how actually we can really make use of the land and forest resources in a wise manner. And then we also expect that there is also efficient and resilient farming system. It means that actually to reduce the demand for land in the futures while maintaining the production target to feed the people. So we need to increase the productivities by at least 56% from current. So it means that's also a challenge because there are some areas in Indonesia also have already reached, is a bit saturated, also challenging to increase the productivity, especially in Java. And then also minimum the post-harvest losses, including food waste, also increase with high water, increase the water use efficiency, and also reduce the use of nitrogen and phosphorus down to 50% of the current level. But of course, the agriculture production still can be increased. And then in terms of security and health diet, so we know that we also need to reach zero hunger by 2050. So that's actually a challenge that we are facing, where actually we need to limit the use of forested land for agricultural activities, but we still need to meet the increasing demand of food. Of course, we need also to provide healthy food and also to minimum the food waste, because we need to change our lifestyle, because with the increase of our wealth condition, the increase of our economic conditions, normally we waste more food. So I think we really need also to include this kind of behavior in the education curriculum, how important. Of course, we can bring also religion issues here to change the behavior of the people, especially in wasting the food. And demand for beef and other ruminant, also demand should also be reduced by 50%. Of course, also depending how actually the diet behavior will change in the future because of increasing the awareness on the importance of the environmental protection. And the animal feed, like fraction and diet, that can reduce emission from fermentation enteric, should also be in place. So it's targeted about 10 to 50% can be reduced from enteric fermentation by increasing the quality of animal feed. And then to promote an international funding system to support green investment and innovation. I think to set up international collaboration and how actually we can also enhance and find new innovation on the technology that can boost our productivity are quite key in order to to decarbonize the land and forest sector. So Indonesia, as you might know, actually we have submitted our NDC. It is the national determined contribution is the commitment of government of Indonesia to contribute into the global climate, how to stabilize the global climate. So the NDC, we have been mentioned that we are going to reduce the emission by 29% in 2030 for the unconditional scenario. So it means that without supporting for the international. While the conditional target, depending on the presence of the international support, so we can reduce further to 38%. And we can see here in both scenarios, actually, our agriculture, forest, and land use will be main focus, how we can really meet this target. But of course, we know that under the current commitment of the countries as signatory for the UNFCCC, based on the assessment by the UNFCCC, also by UNEP, for example, when you do assessment about the commitment from the NDC, and then from the assessment, it is quite clear to meet the global target or to avoid the increase of the global temperature more than 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees. So the current commitment of NDC is far from enough. So we need to deepen or to increase our ambition. And of course, the government or the countries who is a signatory of the UNFCCC need to resubmit their enhanced NDC. However, the government of Indonesia is not really explicitly mentioned that going to increase the target. However, in the long-term vision, which is mentioned in under long-term strategy, so Indonesia is targeting to twist the land and forest sector from net emitter to net sink by 2030. Well, of course, it is the aspiration. If you look at on the NDC target, you can see here on the left-hand side, the forestry sector still emitter, even though for the conditional scenario. So there is a small amount of emissions still contribute from the forest and land use sector. But under the NDC, it is still a bit high here. And of course, it is a big challenge. Actually, the aspiration mentioned in our LTS, in Indonesian LTS, actually, this will convert into net sink, which is also not easy. But from the emission pathway of the AWOL toward toward net zero emission, which is already submitted by government of Indonesia about a week ago. So actually, we call it low carbon. Low carbon scenarios with compatible with Paris. We call it LCCP scenarios, where the CPOS is current policy scenarios, which is actually almost mimic the NDC, but there is a like different in terms of the mitigation activities. But then we can see here there is a big difference in terms of the path of the emission in 2030. So there is a rapid decrease in our emission from the AWOL sector go down into the net sink by 2030. So there is a big transformation that needs to be done. And so now I would like also to introduce some of the key policies, what the Indonesian government have already issued. And of course, one of the key policies is about the forest and peatland moratorium and sustainable land use management, as you already know. So the presidential instruction number 5 in 2019. So the government actually extend the permanent moratorium of forest and peatland. So what does that mean? There is no more permit is going to be issued in the area in land which is still covered by the primary forest and also with peatland. So and then also the enforcing the implementation of law number 41 2009 related to the sustainable agricultural land. So what does that mean? So actually, even though this law has been issued in 2009 to enforce the limit or to forbid to avoid to forbid the conversion of the productive agricultural land into non-agricultural activities. But however, in Java, there are still many conversion of rice paddies, for example, to the settlement, also for other development. So this is also one of the problem because if this continue to happen at current rate, and then probably we need more land outside of Java to meet our food demand. And then also government regulation in 2015 there is also just being issued related to the change of forest land use and function, which ban the conversion of forested land, especially the one which is still under productive land in production forest, as well as in the APL. So there is no more actually the release of forest area for the non-forest activities if this area is still covered by the forest. But except for the province in which actually non-forested land is still very limited or not available, so they still can request for releasing some of the forested land in forest area for meeting their development. But we know that there are many a huge area of unproductive land now. There are 30 million hectares now is already available, which is 11 million hectare in non-forest area and 90 million hectare in forest area. So I think this would need to be optimized, how we can really use this unproductive land while actually trying to minimize the use of forested land for meeting our development. But in this case, actually, the government also issued also the government regulation 46 on 2016 about the need for doing the strategic environmental assessment, which will ensure how actually local government in setting up their spatial plan, also the medium development plan to really carefully consider the strategic environmental issues, like climate change is one of them. So this provides a guidance to integrate a comprehensive spatial explicit land use planning at a national, subnational level, which I mean at food, water, and energy security based on sound ecosystem management. I think the challenge in the implementation of this actually the availability of tool to do this environmental strategic assessment. We can see the variable, the variation of the strategic assessments have been done by different countries because different local government because of the tool which is not really standard. The probably only general guidance how actually this kind of environmental assessment are being conducted. I think this one of the area probably we also need to look at, especially for the student who would like to do a research to develop kind of tools that can be used for doing this environmental strategic assessment, in particular related to the climate. So just to give you an illustration, what are the situation of the scenarios under the LCCP, will bring Indonesia to become net zero emission by 2060, as mentioned by the long-term strategy document. So actually, the total deforestation until from the 22 to 2050 should be not more than 3.8 million hectare. So what does that mean? If we, for example, we cannot meet, for example, the target mentioned under the NDC, under the CM2, so we limit the deforestation go down to 0.8 million hectares. So if we can really meet the CM2 target under the NDC, so it's mean after 2030, the cap of the deforestation for the country is only just left 3 million hectares. So it is also a big challenge because we know there are still some of the province still have a very large forest cover that might need some areas still for supporting their development in the future. So this is also another challenge. Then the other key policies is of course social forestry and agrarian reform, which are the regulating under the Ministry of Environmental Regulation number 83 2016. Actually to allow the community or to provide a legal access for the community to manage the forest area, because we know that there are many forest areas that are already encroached by the community legally, illegally, and this also counts the community who actually do the agricultural activities in forest area do not really able to access support from local government, subsidy or things like that. And we look at the productivity of the agricultural activity of community who operate in the forest area are very, very low. It's almost 1/4, for example, in the context of coffee plantation, in some of the area in Sumatra, for example, it's only 1/4 of the national average. So it means there are a big gap of the yield between the farmers who operate in the forest area with the one outside forest area because of the limitation to get a subsidy and support from the government. So by providing this legal access, so it means that actually they can really continue their activities, but with one condition, so, which is also need to do a mixed farming. They cannot just do the monoculture farming in the forest area, because we need to restore the function of forest ecosystem. So we need to enrich the vegetation cover, and also by integrating with the non-timber forest product trees, or multi-species trees, for example, multi-purpose tree species. So this is being allocated 12 million hectares. Of course, this also need time to restore completely this forest area. But this kind of policy is already in place. So the one which actually be operate for a long time, here the new omnibus law mentioning actually the area that has been occupied 5 years consecutively, that probably can be released to become non-forest area, as long as the area is not really have or contains the high conservation value, and also not provide the environmental services. This has also been issued. Another key policy is giving a multi-business scheme. It is kind of providing the concessions, especially forest concession in forest area, to do multi-business. So in the past, it's only just one business activities that can be implemented by them. It's technically producing wood, but we know that just producing wood make the use of forest resources are very minimal. So in another is actually there are many of the concession area also occupied by communities. Then pushing the communities to live is not possible. So they create a lot of conflict as well. So that's why when we look at the permit that has been issued for the timber plantation, for example, there are 10 million hectares, but the one that has been planted is less than 5 million hectares. It's because of this conflict scenario. By issuing this multi-business scheme, actually the concession can do or implement other activities, including also non-forest commodities like agriculture. So through this kind of scheme, it's possible to create kind of partnership with the communities, so they also can still continue to make use of the land for agricultural activities, but with support through a partnership, they can also increase the diversity of the commodities being implemented or being planted in that area. So this also have been issued to allow for the transformation. And then another one is mandatory certification. I think we also know that there are about 5.2 million hectare natural forests are indicated as a protection zone because of the important value in high conservation, as well as also the function in providing the environmental services. So these are allocated in the convertible production forest, so forest areas that can be converted for non-forest activities, including also in non-forest area. So because there are huge land of forested land inside and outside of forest area that are subject to the deforestation. So through this mandatory certification, there are some of the indicators being introduced. Actually, they also need to conserve the remaining natural forest within the concession. This is one of the indicators that is being introduced in this mandatory certification. Of course, there are also some other indicators that ensure how actually they can adjust the community to address their social and economic problem. So by having more concession and company to have a good certifications, meaning that actually they already meet their responsibility related to social responsibility and also to the environment. And then the others actually now in the government also in the process of setting up indicator for the sustainable jurisdiction. So it is just still ongoing. It is kind of collaborative effort by local government, producer, and civil society organization, which is supported by donors and buyers to meet the sustainable and inclusive palm oil standard. But it is not limited to oil palm commodity, but also can cover other commodities because the certification, it is not to a certain commodity, but to a jurisdiction. So of course, the four main pillars of this there are four main pillars of the scale. One is the environment, economy, social, and governance. So there are specific indicators being introduced within this pillar, which is all actually in line with the current regulation. But this is going to be linked with the fiscal transfer of specific allocation fund later on. So this also make the change might occur in the local government.
Professor Rizaldi, you have
Yes.
3 minutes left.
And the last one is the FICA's policy for low carbon development. There are a number of policies also in place. One of them are carbon pricing policies, which also might regulate later on emission trading and carbon tax, ecological fiscal transfer, also payment for the environmental services. And also there is also now the government issued special Ministry of Finance, which already launched the green planning and budgeting strategy for sustainable development, specifically aimed for the key sector to low carbon transition, especially for the renewable energy. So there is green bond and green sukuk is being issued. It is one of the innovative financing to fund green and SDG related project. So I think I have to stop there because we know the time is not enough. I think the epilogue no need to mention, but we can go to the further discussion. Thank you very much. Sorry for a bit long.
Thank you, Professor Rizaldi. It's a great presentation. It shows the complexity that one has to face in order to really reach the target, the NDC target. Yeah. The organizer has asked me that I have to move forward. So I'm sorry, there won't be any question session. But again, participant, if you want to ask Professor Rizaldi, please do so by writing in the chat box. So if I may, thank you again, Professor Rizaldi, and let us move forward with Professor Tasuku Kato from Tokyo University of Agriculture Technology, Japan. He obtained his bachelor, master, and PhD from the Agricultural Engineering, the University of Tokyo in 1993, 1995, and 1998, respectively. His research interests are mainly about water quality issues in irrigation and drainage and watershed management in agricultural area. He has been conducting several monitoring simulation model and scenario analysis in the Kasumigaura Basin, Japan, and several watersheds in the Southeast Asia. Professor Kato is currently a professor in International Innovative Agriculture Science, Graduate School of Agriculture from the Tokyo University of Agriculture. And he will be presenting today about green infrastructure in the paddy fields. So thank you so much, Professor Kato, for coming to our seminar. The time is yours, and 30 minutes, if you can actually cut it shorter because we have another session right after this. So I'm sorry, but yes, please do so. Thank you.
Try to make up. Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. And then may I share my presentation file for here? You can see?
Yes, it's starting.
Oh, thank you. Yep. Is it okay?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. My name is Kato, and so
you might want to put into the slide mode.
Yes. How about that?
Still processing, maybe? It's still not.
Yep. Yes. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So this is so myself. Then so I would like to skip. And so my colleague is lots of friends in the IPB for the my university students era, and also the I also working with the IPB colleagues for the study in the several places, West Java and then Central Java, and also the Bali Islands. So many Indonesian professors keep in touch with for the through to the our collaborative research. So then I would like to thank you for the all of the Indonesian professors. And so before the presentation, I'd like just a short the trip to the my university in the Tokyo. The TUAT is located in Tokyo, and so the downtown from the 30 minutes or 40 minutes from downtown Tokyo. That's somehow far from the central city, but it's quite a good location, and also that to use for products. And so would like to skip for the my university then, but I would like to introduce for the double degree program for the IIAS in the TUAT. Mostly the double degree program was conducted starting with the IPB and the UGM in both the Indonesian universities. And in this master course, we are so welcome for to stay in the 1 year for the TUAT, and then you can study for the master course thesis in my department. My department topic is not only for the hydrology or irrigation, but also the weed science, soil science, or rural development or agriculture economics could be available. And nowadays, we settle the early graduate scheme. So then only 1 year stay in the TUAT. Then if you successfully complete your thesis in the TUAT, you can get the master degree from the TUAT, both IPB and the TUAT. My department is half and half for the Japanese and international students. And then Indonesia is currently so major nations for the foreign students. All right, so I'd like to start for my lecture. So in the green infrastructure is currently the quite popular words for the environmental science and also the environmental policy for that. Because we have, of course, the population growth and the economic growth in the global scale, even though the COVID-19 was spread, but still population is growing, and the economic could be growing in the future, I guess. But at the same time, climate change is, that means the carbon dioxide concentration is still increasing. And then the degrading of the biodiversity is also that we are facing in this era. So that's meaning the cause for the increasing of natural hazards like floods and droughts. This is so especially influenced the agriculture sector. Also, the ecosystem services is also could be decreasing through to the those kind of degrading of the biodiversity. And in this situation, traditionally we are installing for the gray infrastructure like the dam or reservoirs or lining of the canals, and also the so many concrete facilities infrastructure could be installed for the so many areas. But in Japanese case, those kind of gray infrastructure is already somehow a limited effect to the to stop for the increase in natural hazards. Always natural hazards is so magnitude is so increasing, and then it means that we have more invest to the gray infrastructure. It's quite difficult because the cost is quite the cost and the budget is so increasing in the currently, so we cannot pay for those kind of gray infrastructure. So in that situation, that we are so interested in the green infrastructure. Yeah, this is for the green infrastructure of the definition, the US EPA. That's mostly the cost-effective and resilient approach to the managing the wet weather impacts. And so the example is the provided for here, like like a stormwater runoff is so prevented for the that's more easy to understand in these photos. Like the permeable pavements, that means more easy to the infiltrate to the rainfall to the underground, and also the green roof is the temporary store the water in the inside of the building, and of course the land conservation is one of the most important way to the improve for the flood condition. And also in Japan, there's quite a similar idea for the green infrastructure. That's could be reduced for the cost of the green infra, and also the disaster risk could be reduced by the green infrastructure. So we are expecting for the those kind of green infrastructure in the future. But somehow the EU is a different idea for the green infrastructure, because they are mostly focused on the agriculture. And then they would like to be more interested in the ecosystem services for the combined with the agriculture, and so provide prevent for the natural disaster at the same time. This could be more wider idea for the green infrastructure. And then in this background, the EU has two strategies published for the one is the EU Biodiversity Strategy, and second is the Farm to Fork Strategy. Both strategy was the same date is published in the 2020 May 20th. It's not coincidence. It's these two strategies are quite related with each other. Farm to Fork is the idea for the food production and food processing, and also the food consumption and food loss or waste prevention is one cycle they consider to the integrate for the one idea for in the farm to fork strategy. And at the same time, the biodiversity strategy is more conservation for the sustainable food production. And here is the example for the biodiversity strategy and related with the agriculture. For example, the significant area of degraded carbon-rich ecosystem is listed, the habitats and species, and at least 30% reach favorable conservation status. And then the chemical pesticides is reduced by 50%, or high diversity landscapes features at least 10% of the agriculture area. Also, the at least 25% agricultural land is under the organic farming management. These are quite important idea to the sustainable agriculture and also the sustainable society through to the green infrastructure. It's the EU's are proposing for those kind of idea for the through to the idea for the sustainable society through to the green infrastructure. That's meaning that it could be enhancing for the ecosystem services like a provisioning service or to the contributor regulating services. This is so climate and at the same time they will achieve for the crops or timber or wild foods for the through to the ecosystem service, and they can get for those kind of the profit. At the same time, they can regulate for the climate condition or pest regulation or erosion. Those kind of the idea is at the same time they have to manage for the in the through to the green infrastructures. And here's ASEAN countries. And Japan is not ASEAN country, but it's quite similar with the Asian countries. So our climate condition is not so different. Lots of rainfall and also the high temperature and the high humidity. Nowadays, Tokyo's summer is maybe higher than the Indonesian summer, I guess. It's some Indonesian students is so complain about for the too hot and too heat for the Tokyo's living is worse than the Indonesian climate condition, they said. Yeah, believe me. And so yeah, here's the characteristics of the ASEAN countries. That means the population growth is expected until 2050. Also, the still urbanization is ongoing. That's meaning that our lifestyle is somehow it could be changed for the disposal system. That means that more we are consuming for the plastic or those kind of carbon dioxide consumption is so increasing currently. And this is the obstacle for the sustainable society. But at the same time, we have paddy fields for the rice production in the Asian countries. Like the paddy fields is not the natural land use. That's meaning that we are developed for the paddy fields. That means the mechanization, the land reclamation process is so required. In that sense, the paddy fields could be a negative impact on the ecosystem services. But at the same time, paddy fields could be a contribute to the ecosystem services at the same time, because water was always flowing to the in some specific area of the paddy fields. And so then the water environment is conserved in that situation. And the original landscape is mostly the wetlands in those kind of the paddy fields. So negative impact is, yes, we have a negative impact to develop the rice production, but somehow those kind of negative impact could be mitigated by the paddy fields. And also the problem for the Japan is now labor population is shifting from agriculture to the industry or service sector. That means that number of farmers is so decreasing. And these kind of the things is meaning for the ecosystem management around the paddy fields is quite weakened because of the human population of the farmers are so decreasing. That's meaning management activity is quite decreasing currently. This is the experience in Japanese society. And then it seems me that Indonesia or Malaysia or Thailand, those kind of countries, the same developing path their countries. So to find the same developing path as like Japanese agriculture was experienced, I guess. That's a problem for the in the future program for the degrading of the biodiversity or the degrading of the biodiversity. And then in this situation, the green infrastructure is quite valuable, not only for the Japan, but also your country is also quite get a profit from the green infrastructure. I'd like to skip for those kind of global scale issues like water shortage in the ASEAN countries, and also the crop production through to the groundwater depletion. And ASEAN is not so severe condition. And here is for the characteristics of the ASEAN country. That's this blue color is meaning for the rice production area. Japan, the East Asian, like including China, and the Southeast Asian countries and then South Asian countries, the land use are occupied for their paddy fields. The green one is corn, and the purple one is wheat. So these kind of land use type is quite different from EU or USA. So that's those kind of characteristics is quite different from the other countries. That's somehow the profit to the apply for the green infrastructure as a paddy fields for other green infrastructure. And this is for the characteristic of the paddy fields and also the compare with the wheat and the maize or corn. And water quality risk is also the estimated for the 2050, but I will skip for here. Then the paddy fields green infrastructure is the main land use in the agriculture sector in ASEAN country again. So we always discuss about for the multifunction aspect of the paddy fields. These kind of the topics are already investigated, like water purification by the denitrification process in the as a microbiology in the soil microbiology in the paddy fields. Also the sustainable water balance by recharge to the groundwater. also the nurturing of the water habitats in the water ecosystem, and maintain and develop the rural social network through to the paddy production. Because the water management is mostly related with the collaboration between the farmers or the farmers group or water users association. This kind of social network is quite important to the maintain for the paddy fields. Then this kind of the multifunction is already investigated for the Japanese or Korean paddy fields case study, I guess. At the same time, we also found a negative impact, like chemical fertilizers or pesticides. And also the influence of modernization of the grain infrastructure and the machinery could be devastate for the traditional agriculture. And currently, urbanization is still ongoing. That means a sprawling, a sprawl phenomena. That means urbanized area is embedded to the rural area. So paddy fields area is currently decreasing. And then to apply for the green infrastructure, we need to know how the water balance and also the hydrological phenomena through to the paddy fields area. This is one example of how the water is moved through to the paddy fields. Mostly the upstream or mountainous area, the spring water or mata air is provided to the paddy fields, and the evapotranspiration and also the rainfall could be received, and also the groundwater recharge is expected through to the paddy fields. And the paddy fields is going water was drained to the drainage channel and to the river water. And then the river water is the supply to the paddy fields, especially for the downstream area. Again, the paddy fields can use the water from the river. This river water is quite influenced by the drainage water by the upland paddy fields area. So this system is quite complicated, but and also the water itself is somehow consumed by the evapotranspiration, but most of the water is just maintained or temporarily stored in the paddy fields and back to the river water. That we can say the return flow. Those kind of return flow system is so important to conserve for the water environment or aquaculture or aquatic ecosystem. That could be also contribute to the green infrastructure. And here is the provisioning service or regulating service in the paddy fields aspects. Sorry, I would like to skip for the those kind of for the components, but and also here is for the what is green infrastructure was defined by the World UN Water, United Nations Water Department is already proposed for those kind of green infrastructure. How the green infrastructure solution is available for the water management issues, and also it could be replaced for the gray infrastructure solution, like a water treatment plant or reinforcement of slopes or water treatment plant could be substituted by the paddy fields or riparian buffers or afforestation or forest conservation. Could be same effect could be expected through to the water purification or erosion control or biological control. So that's currently the older than the traditional gray infrastructure idea is the water management is impact to the ecosystem and the biodiversity. But the water management is mostly for the economic standard to fulfill for the how the achieve for the desirable yields. That's a water management issues or water management topic. But in the green infrastructure idea, water management is mostly the sustained for the ecosystem benefit must be included through to the water use is so deliver or sustain for those kind of ecosystem service issues or sustainable ecosystem service. This kind of the idea must be implied for the water management in the future, including for the green infrastructure. So some example. Sorry, that's may I use more 5 minutes? I would like to show you some example for the Japanese case. For the here is the irrigation scheme in the Imbanuma area. That's near to the Tokyo. In this area, the Japanese government install for the recirculation of the irrigation scheme. That means these water is paddy fields. This area is paddy fields, and then this channel is received of the paddy fields drain, and the paddy fields drain water is stored for here, and here is the pump facilities, and the pump facilities stored this tank around 27 meters height, and this tank is provided for the irrigation water. That means the water was always recycled. Of course, the evapotranspiration is occurred, so then the water is so somehow decreasing. In that situation, here is Lake Imba. Lake Imba is supplied water in the partially, but in this water is mixed for the paddy fields drain water and also the Imbanuma Lake water. Actually, the Imba Lake water is here's kind of the gray infrastructure, but this is applied for the recycle system through to the paddy fields drainage water. This is for the scheme for the recirculation of the water, and this Imba Lake is quite famous for the water quality issues. That means the water quality is so degrading. In the worst lake, almost worst lake in the water quality aspect, high nitrogen, the high phosphorus is observed always, and then mostly those kind of the water quality is coming from the agricultural drainage. In this area, the peanuts or vegetables anyway, so highly chemical fertilizers applied in this area. But the paddy fields is located so around the lake, and then at the same time, paddy fields received the agricultural drainage. So somehow the paddy fields can purify the water through to the recycling system. Then those kind of the drainage water is not released to the Imba Lake. So this is kind of nowadays this is the paddy fields. So it's not so changed for the other area, and we are observing for this through to those kind of monitoring scheme. And then here is for the drainage channel, and also the it's kind of the monitoring scheme is. Also installed for the devices, and also every 2 weeks we go to the Imba Lake, and then they restore the restoring for the observation data. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
1 minute. 1 more.
1 minute. 1 minute. All right.
Yes.
1 minute. I can finish. Yeah. This is for those kind of observation scene, and then some Indonesian students accompanied with me for those kind of issues. And yeah, then the water quality is not so good, but it's available to produce rice as ordinary. So it's somehow acceptable for their farmers. And currently now that I would like to try to the purification. Natural purification is mostly tried to the in this research scheme. We are currently install for the carbon fibers and to the purify the water through to with the microbiology. And then this is for the experiment. This experiment is maybe in this autumn or winter, we will try to apply in the Imba Lake for the intercontinental. And sorry that I have another case study for the Lao, but it could be next time.
Yes.
Yeah, I will talk about for that. All right.
Okay.
So then thank you so much. And so, yeah, the Pateta and also the Pateta's people and also the other people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Kato. It's a very, very great presentation and very interesting to see the infrastructure that you have developed. I wonder if Indonesia can model that. That would be really great. Okay, so I think the time is up. Do you think you can stop sharing the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so participants, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the finish line. So it's the end of this plenary session. And on behalf of the committee, I would like again to thank you, Professor Zeljko, Professor Rizal Dibor, and also Professor Tasuku Kato for their great, wonderful presentation, and which is so eye-opening and I learned a lot from all this presentation. I'm sorry that there's not a lot of time for our discussion, but I'm sure that the students can also contact you directly and also the other participants. So let's give a warm applause to all the speakers, the plenary speaker for today. And I'll give this back to Fifi, our MC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Damayanti Bukhari. Thank you very much, Professor Zeljko, Professor Rizal Dibor, and Professor Tasuku Kato for giving such informative and interesting presentation, and Professor Damayanti Bukhari for moderating the excellent plenary session, and also for all the participants. Hopefully, the event will be beneficial for everybody. So please give applause again for the speaker and the moderator. We still have all the invited speaker and the moderator with us. Let's have a group photo together. So to all the participants, please kindly turn on your video cameras. And to the committee, please help to take the photo.